Well, if this is not the most requested video, then I don't know what is, because I've gotten so many questions from you guys over the year, and I know that I promised you to share this video, and here it is. It took a long time, but here it is. I also did a poll on my Instagram just to ask everyone how they take care of their needs. If they wash by hand, it's a washing machine, or if it's dry cleaning. So today I'm going to share the results, and I'm also going to walk you through step by step on how I wash my own pieces. Today I'll be washing 3 or 4 different ones, and hopefully this video will be super helpful. If you've been waiting for this video, or if you think this is going to help you, please give the thumbs up. This kind of video does not perform very well on my channel. I'm basically doing for you because I know it is something that will be helpful, but it doesn't help with the algorithm. So by just leaving a comment, an emoji, or giving a like, you already help the channel so much. So if you had any problem with your clothes before, your wool pieces specifically speaking, and it shrunk and it just became like a baby size, I want you to let me know. First of all, I'm sorry about that, but I would love to know your experience and what happened to it, because I think this is going to be so helpful to so many people. And I have seen many cases of people who spent a lot on a certain garment and then they just washed wrongly, and then it just completely ruined the piece. So we don't want this to happen, you know, especially if you are investing in good, expensive pieces that will last long. You don't want them to be destroyed by the way you washed it. So we're gonna start talking about how to store them. The best way to store wool knits, especially those lightweight ones, but honestly, any kind of wool I think applies to this. And I understand that not everybody has the space for it, but the best way is by putting on shelves or in drawers. Do not hang your knits. You know, there is a kind of hanger that actually has the padding, like a little pillow. These, I would say they're okay if your sweater is very lightweight, because it's not going to weigh in and it's not going to change the shape of the sweater. But in general, for these, because they're lightweight and small, I would say just fold it and then put on the shelf or in a drawer. Personally, I store mine mostly in the shelves, but I do have one specific drawer only for my knits. I do have a lot of them because I am in New York City and I just wear them all the time. When you hang your knits, you're not just leaving marks on them around the shoulders because of the hanger, but you're also making it stretch or just look longer or wider. It really depends on the knit. So you don't want to do this because that's going to change the shape of it, and ideally you want to keep it just remain as it is. Now the second thing we're going to talk about is pilling. So cashmere wool, they will pill eventually. This is normal. Of course, the best kind of cashmere, it's not going to pill as much as if you're getting a very low quality cashmere. There are differences for sure. However, it's normal that it pills. Of course, the ones that don't have a good quality, they will pill right away in your first wear, and it's going to be all over, especially in areas that you rub against something like this area here. So it is normal that it pills, but I would try, of course, investing in better quality cashmere. I think we should do a video on that one day, but today I want to stick to the washing and how to care for them. So I do have a fabric shaver that I got from Amazon, and this one has been really helpful. The only problem is that it's too small. So the one that I got is perfect as a travel size, but on a daily basis, I feel like it's so small, I have to take it off and then do it again all the time. So I would highly recommend getting a fabric shaver just to maintain your knits as new. And another option is a cashmere comb, but you don't have to use this only for cashmere. You can use this for any wool pieces, and it is so helpful. You have to be careful so it doesn't snag, but as long as you're gentle with it, and I don't mean gentle being slow, because you shouldn't really go slowly because it's not going to pull the threads that are coming off. You have to be kind of fast when you do it, like fast movements, but still gently, not with a very heavy hand. So if you have a heavy hand, grab someone else to do it for you, because you don't want to make a hole in your sweater. Now the next thing that I think it's really important is to rotate your knits. Do not wear them in a row 3, 4, 5, 6 times. I mean, I've done that. I think we all have. But the best way, if you're trying to maintain your sweater, if you're trying to make it last longer, ideally you should rotate. So what I mean by rotate, I don't mean wear a new one every single day, but there are ways of doing it, and I'm going to show you how I do. So the first thing I think it's super helpful is to wear something underneath. Obviously, this is not going to work with every knit. For example, when I'm wearing cashmere, I personally love the feel on my skin. So I don't really wear anything underneath unless it's like a little top like this. But in general, I just prefer to have it on my skin. So for these, I would say I normally just wear once or twice in a row, and that's it. And I'm going to show you the next step, and I'm going to talk about how I do when I wear something and I put away, how I do that, instead of just putting in the drawer right away. So rotating is a great way to keep your sweater fresh and just make it last longer. If you only have 1 or 2 sweaters, which I don't believe, I do think you have more than 2, don't you? So if you have more than 2, I would say rotate as much as possible, because this is the best way to preserve and just keep it fresh for as long as possible. As I was saying, it's very important to wear something underneath, and obviously you're not going to do this for every single knit, but if it's something that's more on the loose side, you can easily wear a long sleeve shirt. What's the reason behind that? Besides washing the shirt more often than the knit, is also for comfort. I do wear a lot of them. I actually have a Uniqlo scoop neck shirt, I'm going to link below for you guys, that I wear basically all the time with my chunky knits for extra layer. That's one of the reasons. And also for extra comfort, because some of my knits, they can be really scratchy and just itchy. So I prefer to wear them. It's seamless, it's very lightweight. It doesn't even feel or look like you're wearing something underneath because it doesn't really show. So I absolutely love rotating my knits and wearing something underneath, because these pieces can be easily washed. They're not that expensive, and they are going to maintain the sweater looking amazing for as long as possible. Now for the next step, which I just mentioned, is to use a freshener spray. So I have this one by Apothecary, and I love this stuff. I have the lavender scent, but they have in other scents as well. And I think it's a fantastic product to have, because instead of washing your knits, you can simply take it off when you get home from work, and instead of putting in the drawer, you just put it away, let it air dry, and you can use this spray on it. So this would take off any odors, anything that bothers you, like any signs of sweat or any weird smell. I think this freshener spray is just incredible. It makes your knit just smell amazing. It doesn't last very long, so I like that because it's very subtle. It doesn't feel like too much like a heavy smell. I do use sometimes my Sezane water, which is their perfume. Sometimes I spray that in their knitwear, and I think it's just so good when it arrives. Like the box arrives, I open it, it's this wonderful smell. So I use that on mine as well. And this one actually holds longer, but the one from Apothecary, I feel like it just goes away very quick. And I like that because it eliminates any odor, but it also doesn't overwhelm, like giving me a lot of smell on the clothes, because I do want to wear my own perfume. So I think it's a good thing, but definitely recommend, instead of washing right away, simply use a spray and you're gonna be good. Also, like I said, don't put it right away in your drawer. Just make sure that you leave overnight, air dry if you can. If you have any room in your place that has a window or something, I would say just leave it there for the next day. It's gonna be amazing. Now I'm gonna walk you through how I wash my knits, and I'll be right back. I never thought I would have you in my apartment washing clothes with me, but here we go. By now you probably noticed that the method that I use is hand washing, so it doesn't take a lot of time. It does feel like it's going to be so time consuming, but honestly, to me is the best way. It would be extremely expensive to do dry cleaning. Here in New York, it's very expensive to do that, and I don't have a washing machine. So I'm going to walk you through how I do it, and then after that, I'm going to show you how my dear follower who sent me her video washing her own Barry Jumper by Sezane, how she did, and she did on the washing machine. So hopefully those two videos will be really helpful. Just so you know, the soap that I use the most for wool is this one. It's called Woolite. I used to get mostly the Laundress, but after they had the recall, I ended up switching to this, and I really love how this one is. I've been using a lot. This is my second bottle. So the other one that I use is this, but not for wool. So this one is just the one that I use for most of my clothes, the regular stuff. But for wool, I prefer this one. It's just great. It has a wonderful scent, very gentle. And this is what I use for just stains. So whenever there's a stain, I use OxiClean for regular fabrics, but for wool, this one I feel like is the best one. So I'm going to be linking everything below in case you want to check them out. So the first step we're going to do is to fill this with water, and the temperature of the water is extremely important. You don't want this to be extremely hot. That's the last thing you want for wool. So if you check the tag of the garment, this one is the Lyna Jumper by Sezane, and it does say 100% merino wool. And here it is. So it does say that do not bleach, hand wash in cold water, do not tumble dry, dry flat, and iron low heat and dry cleaning. So in my case, it's just wash with cool water. It's not going to be too cold though. And I've heard from so many of you that you did shrink your Lyna. So it's the first time I'm washing this one. So wish me luck. Hopefully it's gonna work out. And I really don't know how this is going to turn out, but I'm going to do everything that I normally do with my other knits, and we'll see. So the first thing, we want to put water in here. Just so you know, my water stopper is broken because I'm in New York and everything is broken. So what I'm going to do is just use this plastic, because if I put this without the plastic, it's just going to be stuck there. That happened once and it took me a while to get it off. So I'm going to do this, and while the water is running, I'm going to add the soap. So I don't use that amount of soap, especially because the sweater is actually not that dirty. I'm just going to put like half of this, and while the water is running, I'm going to add this to the water because I want it to be bubbly. It is not a problem to have the water a little bit warm. This is like lukewarm water or almost like lightly warm. And to me it's the best because it cleans better. But what I don't want to do is put the sweater here in this temperature and take it off being really cold out here. So you don't want any shock of temperature. I'm going to put Lyna in. Let's do a prayer so it stays just as is. And I'm simply going to immerse this in the water very gently. If I have anything that I see like as a stain, I'm going to do very gently like this. I can feel it's soapy. It's not like completely just watery, but it's also not too bubbly. So I can even see that the water is getting a little bit dirtier, which is a good sign. It means that the dirt is coming out of the sweater. And I'm going to leave it there for just 20 minutes. I want the temperature of this water to be exactly or as close as possible to the room temperature. I don't want this to be too hot and then I take it off and it's too cold, because that might cause felting, which is a horrible thing. You don't want this to happen to your sweater. The felt is that material that's like wool all crumpled up. It's just all very close together. It's like all the threads, they got completely stiff and it's just not wearable. So you don't want this to happen, and the shock of temperature is something that you should definitely avoid. It doesn't matter if you're washing this by hand, if you're washing on the washing machine, you should always avoid any shock of temperature. Now, while the sweater is there, we're gonna take a look at the other way that you can wash, and this is from my dear friend who sent me this. It was the nicest to send me that. She recorded the entire video of how she washes hers, and she does with the washing machine. Not all of us have a washing machine. I could easily just bring it to the laundromat, but I just feel like it's so much easier for me to just do it at home. It doesn't really take me a lot of time. You guys saw that I took maybe 3-4 minutes, and after that it's really not going to be a lot either. So I'm going to show you everything. But now let's take a look together at her video. So I'm going to watch that with you. Here she is wearing her beautiful berry jumper which I know some of you have, and it's an amazing sweater. I'm going to put the composition on the screen so you can see. And you can see that it fits her just perfectly. She has the extra small. And the first step that she does is to reverse the knit, but inside out. So when you're washing in the washing machine, it's very important to either put in a net little pouch so it keeps it from rubbing anywhere on the machine, and to reverse the sweater like inside out. So the next step, as you can see, she has here her washing machine. I am really not familiar to washing machines. I had one when I lived in Brazil. That's a long time ago. And I really don't remember because it's maybe 15 years ago. So as you can see, she is using this soap, which I'm going to try and link for you guys. Because the washing machine has the amount of water that's already set, it's important to put the whole thing. But obviously, you should do this with other knits as well. Preferably, actually, definitely in the same color. So don't wash your light colored with the colorful ones because that would definitely transfer color. Here's the setting that she's using. I actually had to ask her because I didn't really understand how the settings were in her machine. But hopefully from the video, you guys are going to be able to tell. So this is the panel of her washer, and she uses the hand wash program, which is suitable for wool and cashmere. The numbers on the display is just the timer, so you can see it. And it just counts down during the wash cycle. The grades and the RPM are just for the spin. So you don't want this to spin. That's another very important thing. When you're washing your wool, you should not use a spinner because this is going to make a lot of friction to the wool, and again, it can cause felt and it can shrink your wool. It can shrink your knits. So if you have that option, you can take, you should skip that spinning and just make sure that you wash it gently and you take it off. Just squeeze the water like I'm going to do here with my Lyna, which is behaving beautifully in there. I'm going to show you guys the color of the water. It's not pretty to look at. But yes, she uses cold water and no spin for the wool garments. So I'm going to show you the picture so you can see everything. Then as you can see, she takes the sweater out of the washing machine and she squeezes the water gently. Puts this water in like a bucket or anywhere you want, as long as you are not twisting completely the garment. I think you just have to squeeze off the water and that's it. I do the same thing. So the next step would be to use a towel. That's the same thing I do in a hand wash. And you're just going to lay this flat so the water stays on the towel. And then this way, when you squeeze it, it's going to take even more of the water. I love doing that. I think it helps a lot to cut off the time of drying so it doesn't take so long to dry. So I definitely say you should use a towel for it. It does feel like a lot of steps, but once you do a couple of times, a few times, you will notice it's really, really fast. You should definitely reshape the sweater a bit once you take it off of the towel, because you will notice that it can be a little bit smaller or a little bit bigger, but reshaping is the key to keep the sweater the same exact size as it was before. And then she puts on the drying rack. So I believe this will dry quite fast actually. I don't have a drying rack, so for me it takes sometimes 24 hours. Wouldn't recommend that. I would definitely recommend a drying rack, but do not use those pins that you put for, clothes, because that's not going to be good. It's going to weigh in the sweater and it's going to change its shape. So it's been 20 minutes and here's my Lyna. I'm going to show you guys what it looks like. The temperature of the water is actually very similar to the room temperature, and that's exactly what I want. So I am going to go ahead and take this off from the water. I'm just going to squeeze a little bit more. Gently, you don't want to do anything too abrupt here. You just want to make sure that you soak this for a little bit of time and make sure that it's going to be clean. Again, there's no spots like any stain, so that is going to be just fine. The next step, of course, I'm going to squeeze this water gently, as always. Just take it all off. And then I'm going to show you guys how the water turned out, like the color. So the next step, of course, you want to take this dirty water off. I'm going to bring that with my plastic stopper like I showed you guys. Then the water is all gone. What I'm going to do is I'm going to put new water here, very clean. And I'm going to do the same process again. I'm just going to make sure it's not too hot. Just lukewarm temperature and we're good. So again, you don't want any abrupt movements or anything that will cause felting. Just regular water, clean, room temperature, and that's it. I found a little stain on Lyna on the cuff, so I use this and it's gone, as you can see in the video. So now that the water is completely clear and it looks clean, there's no signs of soap, all I'm gonna do is take the water stopper out of the sink and I'm going to squeeze very gently to take the excess water. Not much more than that. Just taking all the excess water to make it easier to dry. Never put this in the dryer. Absolutely ever put any wool in the dryer. You can do washing machine, but not in the dryer. So I took the excess water off and I'm gonna finish this off with a big towel that I have here. I'm just gonna lie it down like flat like this. And one thing that's really important is to not hold it like this because you don't want the threads to be more open and you don't want this to be too small. You just want to keep the sweater as is. All I do is to lie flat. Look how small it turns if you do like that. You see? So you must reshape it. You must reshape it. Because if you don't do this, the sweater is going to dry as you see. Did you see how small the sleeve was? Look how tiny it gets. So you don't want this to happen. You're going to reshape a bit. And I'm going to do this in a flat surface because I want to show you guys exactly how I do. So right now I'm not going to reshape yet. All I'm going to do is put my Lyna here. But notice how small it turned out, like how thin this is. I'm going to reshape this very soon. But in the meantime, I just wanted to show you this very important step, which is doing this. So basically, what I'm doing is I'm squeezing the rest of the water. And again, it does feel like a long step because I am showing you guys in a very detailed way. But please keep in mind that it really doesn't take that long. And again, if you are rotating your sweater, you don't need to be doing this all the time. Now, because I don't have a drying rack, I am gonna have to leave this here and let it air dry. So notice how actually long it got. That's because when you wash, you have to reshape it. So technically you could reshape as you want, just the way you want. But what I'm gonna do here, because I measured this for you guys, I'm gonna try to keep the same exact measurements as before, just because I wanted you to see that it is possible to wash your wool without shrinking it or making it bigger. Just keep in mind, it's not just about shrinking. You can easily make this too long for yourself or too wide depending on how you are drying it. So now it's all reshaped. Now before I just leave the sweater here, what I'm gonna do is measure to make sure it's just the same as before. And I don't normally do that. I'm just doing this today because I wanted to show you that it's going to turn out the same or at least very similar to the original one. So we had 18 inches before. I'm just gonna leave this as 18 for this part as well. For this part we had about 23, 24. It is 23 already. And for the sleeves, which is what normally bothers me the most, I'm just gonna do one more time this because I want to make sure this is not too narrow. So I'm gonna put this after that on my bed, and I'm gonna leave the fan on and the windows open to dry this as fast as possible. I'm going to work very soon, so I'm sure when I come back it's going to be much drier than now. And now for the sleeves, I'm just gonna measure this part to the end, and I have about 23 inches. So that's just like before, and I'm gonna leave this in my bed and I'm gonna put the fan on. So I'll be right back to show you how it turned out. So what's the verdict? Did it shrink? As you can see, my Gaspard remained the same way as before. It didn't shrink, it didn't stretch, it just remained the same exact size, and it feels a little bit more comfortable now too. I had never washed this one, but I have washed many wool pieces before and I never experienced any shrinkage. So if you had any problems with your pieces, I want you to write below what happened and what you think you did wrong, because that will help so many people. So as you can see, the Gaspard is just the same as before. I did wash my Betty and the Matthew pants, which are the same exact material. It's merino wool, and I did not see any difference. This is the size extra small, so it is smaller than my other ones. I picked this one. It was my first Betty, and I wanted it to be a little bit more cropped and fitted. So it is the same as I received. The Matthew, as you can see, it might look smaller, but this is exactly how I received the pants from Sezane. Just keep in mind that as you wear, it does stretch a bit. And because I have wider hips, it definitely made a little bit wider. But then when I washed, it just became the same as I received. Same size, nothing different. Now for Lyna. So this one, I have to be honest with you, the length is exactly the same. The width is also the same. You can see on my shoulders, you can see the bust area, everywhere is just like before. And the sleeves are the same in terms of length. But I don't know if you can see, but I do feel like it got a little bit more fitted. So I would say for Lyna, you can see the measurements. It's pretty much the same everywhere as it was before. But the sleeves, I did feel like they got a little bit tighter. So I asked some of you and you told me that the same happened to you, but as you were, the sweater just became normal again. It just became as it was before. So I believe the fibers should adjust again and just feel like it was before. I don't see a huge difference. You can see here, it's not like any significant size that changed. It's pretty much the same as before. I wouldn't even say it's at 1 centimeter. But it's something I wanted to mention because I don't want to give you false information here. As long as you're careful with what products you're using, the temperature of the water, the spinning, if you're not rubbing the wool, I don't think you're gonna have any problems with it. Let me know below if you had any problems with any of your pieces when you washed, because I know this will be super helpful to others as well. So what do you think of this video? I hope this was helpful, and I would love to hear from you if that's how you've been washing your knits, or if you do something different. I would love to hear as well, because I think this will be so helpful to most of you. We all do it in a different way, and it doesn't really matter as long as you are keeping your knits just as they were. You don't want them to shrink, you don't want them to change the texture or the color. So I think it's really important to follow these steps, and hopefully this video was helpful to you. If it was, don't forget to give the thumbs up. Please leave a comment, even if it's just a little emoji. Again, it's going to help the channel so much. I really appreciate all the support that I get from you guys, and I hope to see you in my next video. Bye bye.